My name is Nancy Farrow, also known as Mama Lou, and I'm the founder of Epic Experience. Epic Experience mission is to empower adult cancer survivors and thrivers to live beyond cancer. I hope that as you listen to Campfires of Hope, Living Beyond Cancer, you find hope, healing, and empowerment. Through stories and education, we aim to guide those impacted by cancer, and more importantly, offer love and support to anyone out there who needs it. This is Beyond Cancer.
Father times dance through the night with the ghosts of America's spine. Well, he's still on our side, the family man's pride, and hopes we will rise once again.
Hello everyone, this is Gail, aka Sunshine. Today we are doing episode 2 with Valarie Traynham. Valarie, welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be back.
In our first episode, we talked about understanding challenges and root causes of inequities in clinical trials. And today we're going to take it a step farther to the good news, I guess, is breaking barriers and creating change in clinical research. Before we dive in, Valarie, just in case there's anyone who wasn't or hasn't listened to the first episode, I'm wondering if you can just kind of give us a brief introduction to who you are.
Yeah, so I'm Valarie Traynham. I live just outside of Chicago in the western suburbs. I'm a multiple myeloma and breast cancer thriver, and I do a lot of work in patient advocacy and raising awareness of both diseases and just educating communities, the marginalized communities, about clinical research and what it is and how these communities can get more involved.
Great. So why is it important to raise awareness about the inequities that exist in regard to access and representation within clinical research?
Yeah, it's important because it leads to change. You know, there are many diseases that are incurable, like multiple myeloma. And we think of, okay, how do we reach a cure? We have to have everybody involved. Multiple myeloma does not, uh, you know, affect only a certain subset of people. It affects all different types of people.
Mm-hmm.
Within the African American Hispanic communities, we're seeing that it's double the rate in a lot of instances.
Wow.
So we have to learn that, in order for there to be a cure, these populations have to be included in research because we want a cure for all.
Right.
That's what cure is. So we have to be included in that.
Well, that is interesting. So you're saying of all the cases, African Americans and Hispanic people make up half the actual incidences or diagnoses, but do they make up half the number who participate in trials?
Absolutely not. So with African Americans and multiple myeloma clinical trials, it is about anywhere from 6 to 7%, and the Hispanic population is about 3%. So
Wow.
even though these populations make up about 20% of all cases, very underrepresented in the clinical research.
Yeah. Wow. So how can we improve that? How can we improve access to clinical research and healthcare support for communities that have historically been marginalized or underrepresented, just as we just spoke about?
Yeah, I say, access can be improved by partnering with local communities, community leadership. Within every community, there are trusted leaders. They're just people that in the community, the people look up to them. They're trusted partners. So partner with those individuals. Let them know what we're trying to accomplish. With the clinical research, and provide. And I say this: provide culturally relevant information.
And when you say that, I remember you saying that actually in our first episode, and I wanted to ask, so I'll ask now, what does that look like? What does culturally relevant look like?
Yeah. So it's information that looks at the culture that the person is in. It looks at how the information is written, how it's being presented. Like everybody doesn't like brochures. Everybody is not going to take a brochure and they're going to read it.
Right.
It may take a video for someone. It may take a YouTube video like
Hmm.
we're doing. It may take something like that. So it's information that's relevant to the people that you're trying to reach, information that is understandable, to that subset of the population there.
So
And that
both
helps to build
oh, sorry.
trust as
Yeah.
well. That helps to build trust, and that's the first step, when we think about this.
Yeah. So it's everything from literally the way it's presented, video, brochure,
Mhm.
to the way it's written, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Um, Photography, pictures, physical representation. I mean, I'm sure it includes all of
Yes.
that.
Yeah. When there's a brochure, and when I see a brochure, does anybody on it look like me? Is
Right.
this for me? It needs to be representative of who you're talking to.
Yeah. Yeah. That completely makes sense.
Mm.
Today's episode is brought to you by Lilly. Cancer changes lives. Clinical trials can change cancer. To learn more, visit cancerclinicaltrials.lilly.com. That's cancerclinicaltrials.lilly.com.
Mhm.
So, how
Yeah.
can we empower communities through education and
Mhm.
inclusion to encourage more equitable participation in these clinical trials?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm going to answer that, but I want to go back to
Sure.
the question where I also think that we need to ensure that research teams and care teams also reflect the communities that they serve. And that's going to help foster inclusion and better communication as well. So that's another thing, when we think of clinical trials and information like that. And I also want to say, remove barriers like transportation,
Hmm.
technology gaps. We think of internet access and things of that nature. And then we already mentioned like the language, just ensuring that the
Yeah.
language is, you're talking in the language that's understandable that they can kind of relate to as well.
Yeah. Well, and as we've talked about already, all of that builds trust.
Mhm.
I would think all of that builds a willingness to participate
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
more readily.
Um, Yeah. So again, it seems like it's the same thing, when we say trust building, but that's the key to it. If I trust you, I'm going to be more likely to listen to what you say. I'm going to be more likely to follow through on what you're saying. I'm going to be more likely to join you in what you're doing if I trust you. If you've
Mhm.
proven that, this is you are really concerned for me and about me.
Right.
Mhm,
Well, and that even goes back to what something we said in the first episode that they want to feel seen and heard.
mhm.
They want to feel like they're more than just a number being pushed through or something that's being studied,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. I also think of building trust through transparency. Now, we in the first episode we talked about the things that had happened with Tuskegee and
Mhm.
Henrietta Lacks. I think it's when people understand, okay, what has been put in place to ensure that those things never happen again, that we don't ever have to, experience those things. So explain the process, uh, from the very beginning, how patients are selected. How does one, even how is it even determined that one would be a good candidate for this particular clinical trial? Um, I think you have to explain how the data is protected, because a lot of
Mhm.
times that's one of those things. I don't want to give you my information because I don't know what you're going to do with it. Can I trust you with that? So essentially, just explaining to the individuals
Mm.
how the data is handled, how it is secure, and things that you don't have to worry about it getting into the wrong hands. just explaining the benefits of it as well as the risk. That's
Yeah.
in full transparency, the good and the bad. You have to talk about that as well. Um, just invite that open dialogue, that conversation between you and the in your care team there.
Yeah.
Um, One thing that I'm big on, a big component is um, including communities in research. Let community members work with the design team. Who better is going to understand it than somebody that is, going through it and it's going to know what this would look like on the backside of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So back to the question I had asked you about empowering
Mhm.
communities.
Mhm.
How are we going to do that through education and inclusion so that
Mhm.
we encourage this more equitable
Yeah.
participation?
Yeah. I say ensuring that the research team is diverse as
Hmm.
well. People that understand the community should be on the team
Yeah.
that's making this research happen because they know what's going on within their community. I also say make sure that you are sharing feedback. A lot of times you
Mm.
come and get information, but it's never shared. Well, what were the results? What happened with this information that you received? So, make sure that you're sharing data back to the community in understandable ways
Mhm.
that the community can understand. And again, it goes back to establishing those long-term
Yeah.
partnerships. Don't just show up for recruiting. Invest in the community throughout the way. Continue to have those year-round education. Or they could be listening sessions. They could be just sessions to where you're coming in and you're um, just being there. We don't want
Yeah.
anything. We just want to come in and just pour into you, just to make sure that you are all right. It's
Yeah.
those types of things that make a difference.
Yeah. And listening sessions, you mean basically gathering people from
Mhm.
the community and getting feedback
Yeah,
on the trial, on the way it was presented, on all of those things?
exactly,
Okay.
exactly. Come in, bring some food. Let's sit down and chat. Let's talk about this.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything else that you would want to share about specifically this idea of breaking barriers, right? And making change. I mean, creating change so that there is better representation in these trials, so that
Yeah,
everyone can benefit from it.
yeah. Change is hard and it's hard for everyone.
Yeah.
But when you're working together, it makes it a little easier. When there's give and take, it makes it a little easier there. So um, just know that when you're coming in and you're listening to those communities, you're making the communities feel heard. That you're going to go far with those communities. When people know that you care, they're going to be willing to help you.
Yeah, definitely. It all comes down to that trust, like we've
Yes,
talked about
yes.
repeatedly.
To have that.
Well, every time I end one of these podcasts, I like to ask a very serious question: marshmallows over a campfire, slow and steady, or flaming crispy?
Flame and crispy. Gotta
No
be flame
hesitation.
and crispy. Not at all.
Valarie, thank you so much for joining us for both episodes, for talking about everything from the root causes to the ways that we can create change. I really appreciate your time and your input here.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
To those of you listening, until the next time we gather around the campfire, keep living beyond cancer. Thank you for listening to this episode of Campfires of Hope, Living Beyond Cancer. For more information about Epic Experience and our programs, or to donate, please visit our website at epicexperience.org. Music for this podcast is provided by Moonshiner Collective. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review us so we can share our story with more people. Also, be sure to subscribe wherever you get podcasts so you'll know when new episodes are released. We hope you come back and join us for our next episode.
Father time